Welcome into the Fourth and Long podcast, the show where championship advice comes at no price. Today is Thursday, August 18th, and I'm Nate Young, and I'm with my co host. Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's Paul. Happy to be here today. Happy to have fantasy back in my life. Sure, everyone that is listening as well.
Oh, dude,
Can't wait for
absolutely.
the start.
You already know, dude. We're going to try to get an episode out every Thursday for you guys and
Yes,
get a little news, but it's good to be back. It's the best time of the year, the favorite holiday of the year, and I think we'll go into that a little later why we love fantasy. But
absolutely.
first, let's start out with some news. I know you had a Mecole Hardman article that you read today, and thought it was pretty interesting.
Yes. So this is coming from Ian Rappaport and I think Adam Schefter as well. Mecole Hardman exited practice earlier today, and he was evaluated for a groin injury. The sources said, and the severity right now, as of this recording, is unclear. He did get up on his feet and got on the cart and was escorted on the cart to practice. And I think this could be very, very interesting depending on the other options around him at Kansas City, depending on the severity for sure. Um, I know
Yeah,
we have different opinions on like the wide receiver group around Mahomes and everything, but depending on the severity, we could see a similar situation with Curtis Samuel last year. Dude, just uber talented, just could never get right.
yeah, and I mean, even without the injury, I mean, I wasn't high on Mecole Hardman to begin with. I know you might have been a little higher, but it's just, I mean, I think he's had his time to show that he's a good wide receiver in the NFL, and he's never done really anything. So the reason
Yeah.
I'm kind of the philosophy of they brought in three guys to take over that spot, to take up the Tyreek Hill targets, take up Byron Pringle and Demarcus Robinson, the Hardman experiment that they tried before, and I think they're kind of thinking, hey, we lost our best receiver. We're going to bring in a whole new regime. It's Sky Moore, Juju Smith
Yep.
Schuster, and Marquez Valdez Scantling. So I know we were I think we were differing opinions on who we thought was going to break out. I like Juju, but I know you're less inclined to draft him because he's going the
Yeah.
highest of them all. Who's the guy you think is going to break out in the Chiefs?
I think the sneaky late option, because he doesn't cost anything in your draft, is probably Marquez Valdez Scantling, because I feel like he is kind of the field stretcher, kind of like what Tyreek Hill it was. Like obviously you can't compare anyone to Tyreek Hill, but I feel like his field stretching ability gives his best chance to replace his Tyreek Hill role. And with Mecole Hardman out and just all these empty vacated targets that Hill left, I feel like someone is going to emerge as this top dog of the receiver for Mahomes. It could
I
be a very valuable asset as a wide receiver too or flex play.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I think taking any of these guys and taking your pick late in the draft because I think Juju's going in the eighth round on most leagues.
Isn't
Like
bad. Yeah.
that's I mean that's the highest. So you got to think this offense. I think we're both on the idea that Andy Reid is going to produce a good offense. Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL in our opinions. It's he's gonna produce fantasy points, and we know Travis Kelsey's going to get his targets, and he's probably going to get an uptick. But I mean, he already had 135 targets last season. I don't think he's getting up to 200 at 33 years old. So
Yes.
they're going to go to somebody else, and we have to decipher who that is. But so I think we're all in the belief of take a shot at one of these guys, maybe two if they're really late in the draft. If you pick up Juju and you see Sky Moore in the 14th round, it might not be a bad idea for a week one chance
Yes.
that he takes off. So just it's I don't think it's a bad idea grabbing a piece of this offense late in the draft, especially if you need a good flex spot for your receiver if you went running back early or something of that nature. So
Yeah,
um,
and you're never gonna feel good starting any of these guys week one. This is gonna be like a week two, week four, maybe, until we can get like a good target share and see who emerges.
yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine the hype that's going to run around the first guy that would catch
Yes.
two touchdowns in the Chiefs offense. It's going to be like,
Yes.
oh, Juju Smith Schuster's wide receiver one for the rest of the year, and then it could be week two and Sky Moore takes off. So it's also
Maybe
kind of putting
maybe
together
sell
that,
high.
yeah, yeah,
Sell high after the
absolutely.
first couple weeks.
That's another reason is people don't know who's going to take off and will absolutely overreact to whatever happens week
Yes.
one. And that is a good thing to have because it's either trade value or you're getting a good receiver. So it's it's a bit of a win-win situation there. So we can move on to our second piece of news here, which I know off camera and off recording, he's my guy, and we'll go into that later. But Melvin Gordon actually reported after a fight with Justin Simmons, the safety, in a locker room over an Uno game. After an Uno game, got pretty. Believe it or not, it's a crazy story. Got in a fight, and we're talking crap back and forth, and reporters asked him afterwards. He let down the fight, kind of played it off a little bit, and then they asked him about the Javonte Williams, and his response was, "Coaches want Javonte to be the guy, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to keep grinding and get my spot." So, like, I mean, it's a new system with a second-year running back that has top 5 talent, in my opinion, at the position.
Yep.
I think if Gordon wasn't there, he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And the player himself is telling you that they aren't running him as much in training camp, and that their plan is to go with Javonte Williams. I don't know. I know I'm freaking out about this, but what are your quick thoughts on that?
I mean, this is just insane. I mean, to be honest, I didn't hear about the fight. You just told me about it before we went live. Like, what a fight over Uno game, you said? Was it Uno?
It was Uno, yeah, believe it or not.
Uno.
Kind of
But,
a wild,
I mean,
wild way to things to get out. But I mean, if he's
yeah.
under a fit of rage and already upset, and he's kind of thinking
Yeah.
emotionally, and he spills something he wasn't supposed to, I mean, this would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, is he speaking up for like the rest of the team? Like, is he saying that what everyone's afraid to say? Which, I mean, if you were on the Javonte Williams hype train, I mean, we're just chugging along at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I will say the earlier you draft now is probably the better, because I mean, we could see his ADP rise depending on what more comes out from this team, if anything else does.
And we'll touch on him a little more later. I don't want to get too much into it because he's a part of our segment later. So we'll move on to a quick off-player topic. A little thing we wanted to start out with, and I think it's a good first episode topic, is basically why we love fantasy football. Why we get into the game, why advice we can give to other leagues to enjoy it as much as we do. Because I know it's like we literally call it in our chat. I think Bender said the other day, it's our favorite holiday of the year, and that's not a joke. I would rather go to my fantasy football draft than Christmas, and that's not even a question. I mean, it's not. So,
I mean, it's just a great time every year. I mean, we've been doing this for the last at least this is like the 6th or 7th year in a row.
I think it's 8 or 9. Actually,
is it more than that? Yeah.
8 or 9. And the reason why it's so fun is because I always say it's because every single person checks it every day. Every single person is willing to trade. Every single person is talking in the chat, giving you crap when you make a good pick, not saying a word when you make a bad. I mean, giving you crap when you make a bad one, but not saying a word when you make a good one.
Right.
I think I will own the king of that. Is I'm not afraid to give my take, and that's part of what I'm getting is fantasy. A lot of people say treat it like it's the stock market almost, take emotion out of it, and I think that's a lot of BS because it's like it's a game. You're not trying to make money off fantasy football. You're not. If you're going to do that, you go on Underdog and do 100 different best ball drafts and diversify your picks. That's
you actually gamble. I mean, I don't look at fantasy football as gambling. It's more of like a hobby, damn near to me.
Yeah. And why in a hobby? Say I'm a Packers fan, right? And I like Justin Jefferson. I see the upside, and if he's out there in a spot to take him, I would, right? But do I really want to watch my number one receiver play against my team and fight for the division every single week? And it does factor in the decision. If I'm close between two guys and that play, I'm not saying I wouldn't draft him. I'm saying if it came in a decision with two guys that I liked equally and that played in, I'm absolutely not choosing Justin Jefferson over the other one. Things like that. And for instance, last year, I had Jonathan Taylor and Zeke, stuff like that. That big debacle. It's fun to say. Everyone made fun of me for not taking Zeke. Jonathan Taylor.
I remember that.
I gave him crap, but the worst part about giving him crap, I traded him away week 3, and then got more crap for trading away the number one running back. So it's like it's having an active league where people are trading and willing to give you shit when you do something wrong is, I think, that makes it the most fun. So just
and the biggest thing too, if you can do your draft in person with everyone, that is the best. It's the experience is way different than just doing it through the ESPN app. The emotions are high. Quarterback runs happen, like positional runs happen. People start worrying, like, do I want to be on the end of this run? Do I want to wait? Like, the emotions are always high. It's one of the best experience. I think it's probably my funnest part about fantasy is everyone being there in the draft in person.
Oh, you make mistakes. Like I know it seems like it's easy when you have a sheet when you have a screen telling you the next 5 picks and the best picks available. It's a lot harder
Yeah.
when you have to bring your own and come up with it. You're like, dude, that dude could have been drafted 3 rounds later. That happens all the time. I mean, it's and when you do it, there's 9 guys in the room making fun of you for it instantly. So
Yep.
it in person draft is I agree is way more fun if you can do it. So just the I think that was a good description. Just a little way to make your league more fun. You know, make sure they're active, get a chat in your league, and uh, try to have it in person if you can. Okay, and then moving on to what we like to call is our Casket Confidants. This is the player of the year that you are taking with you with the grade. It doesn't matter ADP, whatever that number says, you say screw it. I will take this guy around 2 rounds earlier if I have to get him on my team, and I'm willing to die with this player on my roster, whether he's good or bad. So, Paul, I will let you go first because
Yes.
yours I do not agree with, but I do agree with the upside. So you can go ahead.
Yes. So my player that I'm going to the grave with, as you said, is running back Travis Etienne for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I know there's a lot of concern with people regarding the split backfield between him and James Robinson, and we've seen James Robinson be good in the past. But my logic and reasoning is right now, James Robinson is coming back to camp a little bit slower. I believe I seen a report that he is coming back a little bit slower than what they wanted from the ACL, or was it the ACL or some type of leg injury? I don't know the exact
I
extent.
think it was ACL if I
It was
remember.
it, yeah, it was some leg injury. Yeah. Um, and I think the biggest thing people are overlooking when it regards to James Robinson, I feel like they don't have a lot of draft stock in James Robinson. James Robinson, I'm pretty sure he was either a 7th round pick or undrafted free agent. I'm pretty sure James Robinson was. I feel like they have a lot of draft stock in Travis Etienne, and I feel like his current projections have him at 144 carries with 54 receptions. Now, the 54 receptions is a little, it could be a little bit higher than what I was thinking, but I feel like they only have him projected at 6 total touchdowns. And if I was a betting man, I would take the over on that. And they only in a half point PPR, they have him projected for 170 total points. I could see Travis Etienne reaching that 200 point mark and being a top end running back. But that's just one of the guys that I'm taking. And if I have to reach on him in a earlier round to get him, I think I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean you make some good points. It's a new regime. I like Doug Peterson. You know, I don't know if I like him with running backs in fantasy, but I think he's definitely gonna be better than Urban Meyer. James
Yeah,
Robinson's coming back from injury. So is ETN, but he had a lot more time to recover from it. And I mean, he was a first round pick. You know, you're right. 7th round
yeah,
versus first round does matter in the NFL, believe it or not, right? But I mean, if you're paying a guy significantly more money to be there, you're going to want him on the field and you're going to use his production.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I mean, 54 receptions projections a lot, but I mean, 144 carries is not. I mean, my guy coming up, his rookie year, he had 203. You know, so it's like he could easily break that number. And I mean, a lot of this to do is Jacksonville still being a terrible, terrible offense, and easily in my mind, Urban Meyer could have been the root of the problems. Trevor Lawrence
Yes.
comes out and has his not breakout, but a semi breakout campaign based off last year. And if I think it happens, it's going to happen with the running back he had in college. So, I mean, I think you're right that there's possible upside to break out, but there's a lot of risk with that guy. And
Yeah.
like you said, you're
I
taking him to the grave. You're going to die with this player if you
yeah.
draft him as your running
I
back,
feel
too, you know?
I feel like he can work in any game script too. I feel like with them being down, I feel like he could get some extra dump off passes, kind of similar to how like Christian McCaffrey is not like out of a game script regardless what it is. Not to the same extent because that's very extreme, but I feel like Travis Etienne could fit in any game script, which could definitely help later on in fantasy with some extra dump offs and stuff like that from Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, absolutely. Why do you draft guys like they drafted him first round because of his pass catching ability? He might
Yep.
just be such a good pass catcher that you can't take him off the field. And if you're down
Yeah.
in games, which Jacksonville is absolutely projected to be, then
Yes. Absolutely.
and you don't have a lot of time to throw the ball because Jacksonville's line's not great, you're gonna, you know, who are you gonna throw the ball to? You're gonna dump it off to Travis Etienne, the guy you drafted to be a pass catcher. So
Yep.
There's definitely upside there, but I mean, like I
I'm
said,
interested in your guy. I can definitely get on board with yours as well.
yeah,
He
I
is
mean,
getting rich. He's getting
and
rich.
he's getting richer because of the report that we just spoke on earlier. But Javonte Williams was my guy before it came out today, and he will stay this way till I get stay this way till I'm in the grave because I believe in this man. I think he is a top 5 running back talent, and I love the Broncos offense this year. He was the running back 19 last year, right? And he had 203 attempts, and he didn't start really getting carries. He got carries, but didn't start getting the majority of the workload until week 9. So think about it. He was 50-50 pretty much with Melvin Gordon until week 9.
Yeah.
So so half the season was off, and he still was the running back 19. And he, not to count for the fact that Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock were his quarterback. You know,
Just bottom 5, dude.
I
It's
mean,
horrible.
he had a bad offense with stacked boxes with 50-50 carries for half the season. And he was the running back 19. If he did his second half of the season with the same quarterbacks and got the same production, same carries and targets in the second half of the season, he would be running back near the running back 13 mark this year. If he just got the entire season of what he did the last half of the season, he's getting drafted as the running back 13 right now. So to me, like his floor is the running back 13 where he's getting drafted. It seems high, right? He
Yeah.
running back 19 to 13, but I think this offense is going to be significantly better. I think his targets, his attempts are going to go up. As said, Melvin Gordon says their idea is to be the guy. New coach Nathaniel Hackett from the Green Bay Packers. I think he has a good philosophy of the offense. Yes, that is biased. I think Russell Wilson, a Hall of Fame, in my opinion, quarterback, going to your team over Drew Lock, the bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL, is going to be a significant help. And going into his second year running backs are known in fantasy to be breakout candidates. So I just think it's a no brainer. I think you're drafting him in his floor, and I'd be willing to jump a lot
Yeah.
higher to get him.
I mean, definitely with Russell Wilson behind center, there won't be as many stacked boxes. Like he literally had a bottom 5 quarterback all year long, and still look good. The best thing about Javonte Williams too is he looks good running the ball. He's not this like just scrub like I don't even know like a comparison. Just a running back that is like that's bad, but in a good situation. So like we draft him for the opportunity. Javonte Williams is a good running back.
Yeah, and he broke, like I said, every game he got over 15 carries, he broke 20 points except for once. I mean, it honestly reminds me a lot of Jonathan Taylor. I'm not saying he's going to be Jonathan Taylor. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it reminds me of Jonathan Taylor. That the worries were what there was a veteran running back still in there, Marlon Mack. Naeem Hines was going to take pass catching role, which Javonte Williams doesn't even have that. He's the pass catching role in that offense. So
Yeah.
there's another thing that Jonathan Taylor didn't have. And I think his ADP is being dropped because of the worry of Melvin Gordon, a guy that got signed on a veteran contract before Nathaniel Hackett and that new regime was in place to pretty much a veteran minimum to stay.
Yeah.
I think he's there for assurance. I think Javonte Williams will at least have 70% of this offense, and if he does, he will be a top 10 running back, top 10 drafted player. So
Pretty wild stat too. I just seen they Melvin Gordon outscored Javonte Williams by 7 points. That's how like split it was,
yeah,
like work wise. He had 7 more fantasy points than Javonte.
yeah, absolutely.
Give this
It's
man the workload, man.
and that is, what I think that's a product of is the Vic Fangio, the old regime system. I think that
Yeah,
I think they hired a good coach with a good system, and they're going to recognize that. Listen, we have a better running back on our field, and it's idiotic if we don't use him. So
yeah, I agree. I love it. I like the pick. I really do.
yeah. So just to do a quick recap, pay attention to your Chiefs wide receivers. Go
Yes.
go see if you can grab you a Sky Moore, Marquez Valdez Scantling, or Juju late in your draft. Um, take the shot on them. And grab Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne in your leagues. Pick them up, uh, live or die with them. But these are guys that if you draft them in the second round, Williams, or you draft Etienne in the fourth, that you might end up with 2 top 10 players next year, and you can't say that for a lot of people. So,
You realistically draft both, which is kind of crazy.
yeah, absolutely. So, and thanks again for listening to the Fourth and Long podcast, where your championship advice came at no price.
Have a good one, guys.